He has a 1-1 count. That one's struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the lights. You have to be kidding me. Fireworks. Here you go. Hey everybody, welcome one and welcome all inside another edition of High and Tight State Tournament style as we continue to progress along 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. Again, 1A, 2A in Carroll, 3A, 4A here at Cedar Rapids. A lot of good stuff going on here and a lot to get to here. We talked already the 1A side of things and the 3A side of things, and now we got to give some love to some other classes here. 2A, 4A, we get the chance to dive into those. And we'll do just that here now. And the show brought to you by the Log Cabin Greek Steakhouse in Galena, Illinois. I urge you, some great people there and phenomenal food. So you got to check it out today. And if you get the chance, tell them IAbaseball sent you. And have a good time there. We're having a good time here. Again, we progress here, and now we're starting to get we're getting further along. State quarterfinals going here. And, of course, we got Alex that has been there, boots on the ground, giving us everything that has been kind of a crazy weather dialed down kind of time there in Carroll. But let's move things here. I know we talked 1A last time, 2A this time, man. This was a field that I looked at and went, I don't know what we're going to get. Right, we only had one team that really was that we knew that was proven that's been there before in Underwood, and now we've gotten quite the sample size here. We got a lot of things going on here, but let's take a look at what went down here and what we'll get coming forward here. Again, as I bring up my look here, again we got Underwood, Sheraton, New Hampton, Sumner, Fredericksburg. Let's start with Underwood, Sheraton here, Alex. I liked what we saw out of both teams. You know, in the end, both teams in round one, they held their opponents to just a run. But this is a matchup here that, gosh, it's kind of different from one side of the bracket to the other. You're going to get some new faces on the mound for sure here coming on up. But, gosh, Sheraton seems like that Cinderella team or close to it at this point. But Underwood's the tried and true proven here. I mean, first off, what are your take on what we might see here between these two teams?
Yeah, I mean, we'll mention it, further when we talk about the other teams too, but these, both of these two teams, they threw their number one, threw their ace, and both guys threw over 100. So we won't be able to see either of those guys for the rest of the tournament. So like you said, we're going to see those 2s and 3s coming from these teams, especially, whichever one advances to Friday. But one thing I just noticed even from 1A to 2A is there's some more offense in this quarterfinals round. I know we mentioned that 1A quarterfinals round. I think there were 2-3 games that were decided by one run, and I mean it was 2-1, 3-2, 1-0. I mean there's a lot more offense in this 2A round here, and I think it's going to be the same, especially in this Underwood Sheraton game. Both teams can hit, both teams can score, and we're going to see two pitching staffs that are depleted from their number one. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, and it really begs the question. What will we get? These are two programs top 10 in slugging. So we've seen pitching, we've seen that again. I love how you brought that up because now what do we get? We don't know. But man, this will be an interesting matchup here. I think for sure. I mean, in the end, I think Underwood, man, I've seen them once, and it was really impressive. We've gotten the chance to catch up them, and it's just impressive the way they go about it. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things here, they've had, I think, just 3 games in which they've been limited to 3 runs or less, and 2 of those have come in the postseason, as you mentioned. So it's did it look at all like they were at all kind of flustered? I mean, this is a team that really keeps their composure pretty well. And in the end, you see teams crumble when they aren't able to put up 5, 6, 7, 8 runs. But this team seemed to kind of go with the flow here.
I would say that they definitely kept their composure. I think it was just a battle. I mean, as far as like it wasn't too much like one team lost it, one team didn't. I think both teams in that game were kind of composed. But Underwood, having been here last year, I think they were just a little more experienced, a little more, kind of just ready for something like this, ready to face that adversity a little better. But, kind of as you mentioned, they've hardly been held to 3 runs or less, and it's happened twice in this postseason. I think this is the game where Underwood comes out and the bats are hot. I think the offense is really going to be firing today. I think they're kind of I don't like saying that they're due or somebody's due, but
Mhm.
I think in this case, I think Underwood is due for a big offensive game.
Speaking of offense, Alex Sheraton, most of the season they're unranked. They hop into our rankings, late in the season. They pull off the big upset in Van Meter. And what we've kind of known about them is that the offense plays. The pitching isn't world beating by any means. They got good arms, but the offense is really what carries them to this point. And in that quarterfinal game, I mean, 9 hits, some extra base hits. They hit a good Pleasantville pitching staff pretty hard. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I wasn't able to see it. Andrew wasn't there. What did you see from them? Was it a lot of loud contact? I mean, I'm excited to hear about this offense because, like, looking at the numbers, these guys look like they can hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that game both, I'll mention it too, but I don't know. I think if I'm or correct me if I'm wrong, but Sheraton's starter, I did not I think he threw I think it was a complete game, if I'm
Yeah.
not wrong.
Yep. Seven
He
innings,
only
7 hits.
had 2 strikeouts, and his 2 strikeouts didn't come till the 6th and 7th innings, I don't think. I mean,
Wow.
Pleasantville, Sheraton, both I mean, it was loud contact all around. I mean, the bats were firing. Pleasantville made a lot of loud contact right at guys, a lot of really good defensive plays. I know Pleasantville, they're a younger squad, had some errors that kind of hurt them throughout. I think they might have finished with somewhere between 5 and 7 errors that
7.
game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean Sheraton really took advantage. I remember talking to one of their guys after the game. They really took advantage of those errors, those mistakes that were made, and I think it's going to be similar too. Underwood's a pretty good fielding team, but I think if they allow one or two extra guys, Sheraton's definitely going to take advantage of it, and they showed that on Tuesday.
Yeah, man. Fun. Ultimately, we get some of the best baseball at them at this moment, and gotta love it. Again, if you make errors, we've seen that here as well. Yeah, you don't fare off well if you make the errors. But speaking of teams that don't quite make the errors here, unless there's anything else to talk on this matchup, as we hop on over and take a look at the other side here from Merchants Park, New Hampton, Sumner Fredericksburg. Alex, this kind of seems interesting to me because this seems like we're now set up with pitching staffs that have been really solid all year, and again, that's with the offense like the McShane brings for New Hampton and so forth. But I don't know on the top end, Underwood, Sheraton, I think offense a lot. On the bottom end, I'm thinking a lot of pitching and a lot of defense here. What did you see? I mean, are we in line with that, or what did you see ultimately from these two teams that could give us a preview of what we're going to see here in this game?
No, definitely, I agree. I mean, this one's kind of the opposite. Kind of like you said of the other side of the semifinals. Both of these teams, their ones can go. They'll or if they can't go today, they'll be able to go Friday. So we're gonna see some more really good pitching out of both of these squads, and you can see in their other games before the New Hampton game in the quarterfinals. That was a 2-1 ball game going into that bottom of that 6th inning, and New Hampton fired off 9 runs to end up getting the mercy rule. I mean, that score does, other than that last inning that kind of fell apart there, that score doesn't really tell how close of a game that really was. But New Hampton got hot. The bats started firing off. I think they batted around, through the lineup a time and a half. So again, I think it's going to be neither of these teams make a lot of errors. Two very good fielding teams. I was able to note kind of when watching both of those games, but I think this one's going to be closer. And I think it's going to be, kind of whoever's able to grab that edge later in the game. I think this one's going to come down to the wire.
Gotta ask you, Alex. Kale Myers, New Hampton, lefty starter. I believe he entered like leading the entire field in all classes and strikeouts. He's got 110 right now. I think that leads all classes among state tournament teams. What'd you see from him? I mean, he's 11-0 on the mound. I've never gotten a chance to see Kale Myers. I've been following his stats all season. He looks impressive, and you got up and close view of him. What'd you see from the lefty from New Hampton?
Yeah, he's a stud. I mean, he didn't. I was talking to him after the game because I think he was our player of the game. After that game, well, more because of his bat. Actually, he said he didn't really have too much of his strikeout stuff. I think he only had 4 Ks and was it 4 or 5 innings that night. But I mean, still, you can tell that he's just he's daunting when he's on the mound. I mean, he's intimidating. He gets up there, he controls the mound, he owns it. It's his game. He's the one that's throwing it. It's super fun to watch. I'm hoping that he's either able to, if he doesn't go today, I think he stayed
I think he's
on.
good for the finals. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, he'll be good to go Friday. I'm hoping. If I had to guess, barring anything drastic today, we're going to see him Friday, and that's what you want too in your championship game. You want your guy, you want your stud, and Kale Myers is that guy.
Yeah, it's a risky play because I remember they when they pulled Kale Myers, it was only 2-1, and you're thinking, oh, like this could get a little dicey. I mean, they're playing the long game. They wanna get him the state title, and some teams they come in with that plan, and some teams are like, you know what, we're burning him. We're gonna win this one for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a risky move, but I mean, it paid off for both these guys, and then. Sumner Fredericksburg, probably going to see Howard tonight for them. And Andrew, I just want to ask you too. I mean, it's kind of fun. And 1A, we got like four of the top five teams that were in our top five all year long. This one, it's a little more haywire. Andrew, I mean, New Hampton, Sumner, Fredericksburg, two teams that have been more mainstays. In our rankings. What do you see from these guys? Because we haven't been able to see these guys all year. Besides, what's been in our poll. Again, like you said, I'm expecting more pitching from this bottom half. But what's the separator in this semifinal matchup?
Man, I mean, pitching we will definitely see, and we'll see tons of it here, and it could go either way. But one of the things that I think is, as I look through as some of my notes here, is how do we do well with the bases? And New Hampton, what they're top three, top two in stolen bases across the class, and I think I don't know. In the end, it plays differently in the state tournament. You got guys behind the dish that can throw it well, so that may be muted a little bit in the grand scheme of things, but in the end, I think how you do well on the base pass is really something. I think that Sumner Fredericksburg, and Alex will bring it to you here in just a bit, but the fact that you have a team that has everybody at will right now, and they could go ahead and they can mix it up. They don't have to go with Howard necessarily, at least right up front. So they have versatility with that. I mean, both teams have versatility. The Cougars have a little bit more here, but I'm really curious to see how the base paths work out here. Alex, what did you see out of both these teams' aggressiveness on the base paths here? I know New Hampton kind of reigns a little bit more supreme in terms of numbers, but did we get much of a chance to see what they can do running the bases?
Yeah, there was definitely some aggressiveness, especially, I mean, some of those, you have some younger kids that are coming in that are courtesy running for your pitchers and your catchers. And I think it was a lot of small ball as well. I mean, a lot of get a guy on, get him over, get him in, which I am personally a fan of. I love that strategic aspect of baseball. But I mean, yeah, both of these teams, especially on Tuesday, just manufactured runs. I mean, you had your base hits, you had your loud contact, but then there was also a fair share of the bunts, the get a guy on, or if a guy walks or gets hit by a pitch, he's taking second. We're moving guys. I think there was couple hit and runs, that both teams tried doing. It's really fun baseball to watch, especially when you get those guys on the base paths moving and stuff like that. And both of these teams very capable of stealing bags. And I guess we'll have to see, if the arms behind the dish are able to kind of limit that. But yeah, I think this one it's going to be a little more pitching. So when you do get those guys on, I can see that aggressive side coming out from both teams.
Yeah, and I think we'll get a lot of that here. It's going to be fun. I do like how teams play, and it's very interesting to see how things go. I mean, we talk a lot of pitching, man. Of course, both teams, McShane being one of them for New Hampton, Nuss offensively here for the Cougars, man. If I mean, how are you going to play this? You've seen both teams. And both these teams for most of the year, I mean, pitching has been big for them. That's going to be big here. Uh, you mentioned small ball. Is that going to have to play a part here? I mean, when you get down to this nitty gritty, you're finding ways to manufacture. And both these teams, they're doing pretty good in terms of the pitching race here. So, I mean, in terms of offense here, man, how is this going to be won for either team?
I mean, both of these teams can score. Both teams average just about 8 runs a game. Not allowing, or both teams averaging to allow less than 3. So I think it's so tough to say because you just never know what side's going to come out. I mean, it's
Yep.
state tournament baseball. We're in the semifinals. You never know the arms. It could be a 1-2 ball game just as much as it could be a 10-9 ball game. You just never know. I'm excited for this one. I think this one is. I don't want to say it too. I'll say this too tentatively, but I think these are two of the more complete looking teams as far as what I saw Tuesday, just as far as, based off straight confidence and the way that both of these teams played their games on Tuesday. I think this could be a preview of, two of the better teams that we have in 2A here in this tournament.
I think Alex is just hoping the first one doesn't go 14 innings, right?
Yeah.
We're just hoping this one doesn't start at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Yeah. All fun and
Lucky
games.
guy, you got to see the longest game in state tournament history last night. I wish I was there. I wish I would have been able to see that.
Hey, not everyone can say that. I was there.
Yeah, my dad texted me. He's like, "This place is just waiting to go crazy, like waiting for 7 innings for something crazy to happen." Just the tenseness in that park, I'm sure, was just
It
nuts.
was Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you texted me to see if I could go and get like a video of something. I'm like, dude, I can't move from where I'm standing. I can't move from where I'm sitting at right now unless I'm walking through people.
They-
But
they-
yeah, like we mentioned yesterday in the 1A in the 1A show. It's the way that Merchants is set up. You've got the grandstands and you got the big bleachers right next to it. So I mean, when something does happen, you can probably hear it across town. I mean, it's the crowd pops have been electric so far, and I think today's gonna be a similar story. With the 4 teams that we have going today.
Yeah, no doubt about that. This is going to be fun, man. I really appreciate you being the boots on the ground there. You and Nate obviously do a great job of bringing that here. And again, all the coverage, no matter what, we got you covered here from our player of the game, to every big hit, to every big pitch, and more. So again, a lot of excitement going on here as we get ready and dealing. And again, this episode brought to you by the Log Cabin Steakhouse in Galena, Illinois. And appreciate man coming along. Unless there's anything else for the good of the cause, we're gonna let you kind of regroup and get ready here. I know that this is gonna be the buckle up moment, right, as we get ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot coming out today, so be ready for that. A lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot, score updates, all the above. I have a feeling I'll be getting quite a bit of stuff out today, so be ready, looking for that, and I hope you guys get the same luck there.
Yes, for
Thanks.
sure. All right, Alex. We'll see. We'll see you later. See you tomorrow for some finals
Sounds good.
previews.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Yeah. Alex Lowe, everybody.
Gosh, good
Helping us
guy.
out. Trooper sitting through 14 innings of
Oh my God.
covering teams he hasn't really seen much all year.
And for me, I kind of went, man, what's the shoe going to be dropping on that end? Because in Cedar Rapids, they've had 2 rain delays. We had to wait out basically the same thing 2 different days, and I thought, man, I just hope they don't get necessarily something like that. In the end, they did, and but it only came in a 1 game set. So I'm glad that they were able to see history along the process here.
Yeah, no, that was really cool, and it's something you might not see for a long time now. That it might be a little
Yeah.
bit before you see another 14 inning state tournament game, Andrew. But hey, we got 4A semis to talk about.
Yeah.
looking back at the quarters, I mean, all 4 games, like, nail biting and really coulda gone either way. I know it's hard to choose one, but what was your kinda big moment, and something that you kinda, remember, the most important thing from those quarters?
Well, man, I a couple things. I mean, first off, for me, I go to the Cedar Rapids Kennedy Pleasant Valley game because that was a back and forth, and you saw arguably one of the better pitchers in 4A and Lincoln Dalton do what he does. But I also saw one thing that I love here, Cage, is to see really good teams continue to find a way to win, even if they're not doing what they've normally done throughout the season. Kennedy has had so many games where they post up 8, 9, 10 plus runs, right? And for the good majority of the game, they were kind of stifled throughout the most part here. The 4-run sixth is really kind of what changed the landscape of it overall. But Pleasant Valley, they ended up putting up three in the top half of the sixth and late, and we thought, man, what's going to go on here, right? But Kennedy just waited him out. I think that's all. That's in the end what happened. They waited. They were patient. They didn't get too far out. I mean, we saw several games here yesterday in which teams kind of looked a little impatient late in games, and that's kind of and part of what the downfall was. Kennedy didn't really seem to get that here. They just kept going here. Mather on the mound did fantastic, but I really liked how that game played out, and then gosh, you go down the line here. I mean, anywhere. I do like City High, how they ended up kind of, I mean, they just battled here. There was the defensive battle, and they manufactured the runs that they needed to. And I will also say, too, that Waukee Northwest and Johnston, again, I could say every game here, but I mean,
Yeah.
the games that really stood out to me, I'd say Cedar Rapids, Kennedy, Pleasant Valley, and then the Johnston Waukee Northwest game. I mean, down to the wire for that one, you had to you had to get the last little bit in there. You had to walk it off. Johnston has been said, man, they're not the same team anymore, but they got Barta at the helm. I don't know why anybody's doubting this team at this point. Yes, they may not have the same firepower, but they still win. So in the end, I think that yeah, those are the two games that really kind of stood out to me.
I mean, we got 3 34-win teams in the semifinals. I mean, that's pretty incredible. We got the best of the best here, and then Dowling, that's no slouch. This is a team that's playing extremely well down the stretch. This is the team that came out of what I believe was the hardest sub-state, in Class 4A. They did it, and they enter the state tournament, and they beat DCG again 2 years in a row, behind the arm of Baumler. Looking at these semifinals, Andrew, starting with Kennedy Johnston, this is the marquee one. This is the one that's like, this is the big one.
Yeah.
And pitching wise, I mean, I think you gotta kind of give a little bit of an edge to Johnston here. They got Ogden ready to go, the lefty. He's been phenomenal. And Kennedy, obviously, they're more known for their offense. They got a number two ready to go too. They're gonna bring a good arm, but I'm expecting more offense in this semifinal. Probably Jay Scott, I'm assuming, for Kennedy. But I'm expecting runs in this semifinal game between these two teams.
Well, and don't forget Brodus for Johnston. He only went 44 pitches
Oh,
in
true.
so I know that I think that may be close to, if not possibly over the count for the next day. But there's a possibility you might see him in there. Again, he kind of got cut off,
Yeah, it was the
right?
rain delay, and almost like
The rain delay kind of cut him off. But I agree with you in the fact that we could see again what is a solid rotation for the most part. I mean, there's not a lot of negativity when it comes to what Johnston's rotation has been able to do this year. Again, a lot of guys have really stood out, but yeah, I think McConnell, Ogden, even Kemmer. With a chance to come in there, I think they got all guys with 40 plus Ks on the year, a chance to go in there. And I think it's interesting because they're going to kind of play a little bit of committee ball, but uh, gosh, Cedar Rapids, they're also going to play a lot of committee ball. In
yeah.
the end, when you look at it, I was kind of almost shocked a little bit here because Mather is the only guy on the roster pitching wise with 10 plus starts and over 40 innings pitched. And the rest of it, guys have been kind of going through I mean, again, they've had a lot of games in which they have ended early. So this is an offensive juggernaut where you haven't necessarily had to sit one guy in and say, "Hey, man, you're going to have to take us deep," other than Mather. And again, I think they've been one of the better pitching teams in there. But from Leno to Scott and even Donalds, those guys I think are going to be the ones that would get the consideration here. But I think you might just end up seeing a pitch by committee where you get every one of those guys hitting 40 pitches, 40 or 40 some pitches in the game, and then you could still be set up pretty well going into the title game if you make it there. So this is where I think strategy will really come into play. I don't know which one is better necessarily. If you decide, hey, let's go all out on one guy and see how he goes, or if you try and make it committee like pitching, because in the end, Mather went the distance. He did what he needed to do. So it's unlikely that you'll get him in Friday should they make it there. But I think this is interesting. Two teams that have been known for offense, and here we are sitting talking about what kind of pitching we'll end up seeing here for this game. I know it's going to be fun. I know that in the end, what we're seeing is great pitching usually tends to win the day. And now you're getting into a point where it's like, okay, still strong pitching, but now we're getting into a little bit. The numbers aren't quite all there.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing you notice with Kennedy, if you sit and watch them, they got a lot of lefties. I mean,
They do.
they've got a ton of them. So you're wondering if Johnson schemed that up and like their odds with Ogden, the southpaw going out there and seeing how they handle lefty matchups. It's all a game within the game, and Kennedy's offense is going to come to play. Johnson's pitching is going to come to play. A fun yin and yang there, and then Kennedy's pitching by committee against a Johnson offense that's like kind of waiting to just have that outbreak game. I mean, they haven't really just popped off in a game quite yet. 1-0 Cedar Falls in the sub-state final. You kind of just waiting for them to just kind of poof, like just hit that stride, and they did in that
Yeah.
seventh inning against Waukee Northwest when they needed them most. The offense produced, so maybe that's gonna carry over into tonight's semifinal matchup. It should be fun. I mean, before the season, I mean, even last year, you're wanting Johnson Kennedy in the state tournament, and I mean, here you go, you got it. It's tonight, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Don't miss it now that it's here.
Yeah, it'll be this will be the heavyweight bout that we all wanted. And I think it's who gets on the base pass early, who gets there quick, and again, we've seen we saw in 3A the Cardiac Comets keep winning in late in games, keep winning by one run, and Johnston's been kind of following that mark, but. Yeah, I think, man, this is it'll be a solid here. Kennedy, I think they're you mentioned the lefty matchups there. I love it. I think that's ultimately a big part of how they have been able to kind of get through a lot of the competition is, they've been really solid from both sides of the plate. And that goes a long way when you can add versatility in that mix here as well. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, but that'll be a fun matchup.
Well, one thing, Andrew, I just want to quickly. I mean, just in the tournament in general, you've noticed, like you've talked about getting on base and stealing bases, but I think it's also about being safe on the bases. We've seen so many teams
Yes.
ruin opportunities just being a little too aggressive and like costing themselves on the base pass. So I think that's a big key is who can get on, but who can also stay on. Because we've seen I've never seen so many guys picked off and back picked and like just running themselves out of innings. And I mean, a lot of teams have done it. It's interesting because a lot of these teams you think are sound, and it's more like on the pitching, just being quick and just better. So I think that's a big key is who can stay safe, and it's something you don't really
Yes.
talk about. But we've seen a lot of runners running themselves out of innings.
And tons of catchers that have absolute,
Yes.
and we get that here. The catchers behind the plate in this game, I am excited because you cannot get much of a lead at first. I mean, I'll say ballsy in that stadium to throw it to first, because if it goes, you're getting to third, right? I mean, but gosh, This is where again it's a heavy hitter. These are two of the Titans in 4A, and glad they're here matching up here in this one. I like it. I know you like it. Uh, we got to see both of these teams here, so yeah, we'll do it well. And I know that both these coaches kind of go at it the same way. They look at the numbers, they look at the stats. I know Bart is very analytically inclined here, so it'll be interesting to see how all that comes into play with this. So, but yeah, I was just I love it. And as we unless there's anything else that you had, Cade,
Nope.
within this matchup, I was kind of just going to usher us into what is going to be another big matchup here. Iowa City High and Dowling. For me, Kate, I thought about this the other day and go, how many times has Dowling, been in a position where they've been a higher end seed, and they get there, maybe get past the first round, can't get past that hump of number two, but man, they have great chances here, and I say that because they have not allowed a run in the postseason. it's it's been very difficult, and I know that Baumler has been a huge catalyst for that. Obviously, not going to be available here in this one. They would be available if they should move on with the pitch count that he had there. But gosh, in the end, I thought it was impressive the way that he made Dallas Center Grimes look uncomfortable, and they did not get a lot of solid contact in that. And he was hitting up into the 90s at one point. He was touching them, he was doing it, he was rocking it well, and he was dancing. Things were dancing on the mound there for him. But anyway, going into this matchup here, yeah, they still got Dowling Catholic still has a good number two. I mean, the pitching staff, I would say, has done what they needed to do throughout this entire postseason. They've gotten there, they've done there, been there, done that sort of thing, and they've done what they needed to do. I think Southern is the guy that they'll probably end up putting out there. Again, Webb is another guy that you can put out there as well. Even Barrett. All those guys have 30 plus innings on the mound. Barrett at 40, he would be third in terms of the innings pitched mark. But again, I think in the end, you go out and bring out Southern, who has the most pitches thrown out of anybody in this pitching rotation for them. He's been the guy that's kind of gone the distance and then some here through 49 innings. But I like it. But then on the other end, you get the same thing, or you get it perhaps even more amplified. Talon Young, I believe, is the guy that's probably going to get it and rock it. I mean, Waldschmidt may get it, or maybe kind of a 1-2 split here, but it's interesting because you get Dowling, who has been great with the strikeout mark this postseason, and then you get to Iowa City High, and they're kind of the team that plays on defense. We saw that the other day. We saw them play great defense and not a ton of strikeouts in the grand scheme. But from Schrader to Young, those guys they are soft contact kings in my mind. That they have the ability to make you feel a false sense of pride. You get up there, say, "Oh man, we're close. We're getting that. We'll get that big hit soon," but you never kind of get that real big hit. And I think that's truly the dynamic that'll be at play here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's got to be really frustrating hitting against Iowa City High, and specifically, I mean, Talon Young, because he's not gonna strike you out a ton, and he's, I mean, you're gonna make contact off him, but rarely is it gonna be hard, and he's got a really good defense behind him, and we saw that in the quarterfinals. I mean, those guys were just nails behind Schroeder all day long, backing him up with great plays. But yeah, it's got to be super frustrating in Dowling. You just got to be patient because you're just gonna have weak contact against them. You just got to wait for that time where you get those few guys in scoring position, and you got to take advantage. And so far, I mean, it's been tough. I mean, Hawkeyes was threatening multiple times, just couldn't quite get guys in. And that's going to be the same thing in this one. Dowling, you're probably going to have a few shots in the entire game. If Young's on his A game, you're still going to have a few shots to get guys in. You got to take advantage, and you got to find that hard contact when needed. But it's really frustrating. I mean, You don't see a lot of guys with 45 strikeouts in 61 innings, especially nowadays. It's just it's a rarity. But it's cool. Like it's I think it's incredible that he can go out there and he knows that he's got 7 guys behind him that have his back, and it's an impressive thing. And looking for much the same tonight. Just gonna junk you to death and try and sneak some stuff by you. And I mean, he knows what his repertoire is, and you just got to try and beat him.
Yeah, and you need to. I mean, in the end, I think it's very interesting. Both of these pitching staffs are just again outwardly. I know we talk about that, but one of the things that really impressed me was I got to see Iowa City High a couple times and this year, and the times I saw them, there was early action on the base pass kind of rattled them a little bit. I can't say a lot, but now we're talking state tournament, so we have to talk about it on a different tier, right? We can't just say that you've been rattled here by the bottom dweller in the conference. I mean, one thing that I really liked was that Waukee, they got on base with the leadoff hitter in all but 2 innings of that game. So, Schrader had to kind of work from the stretch most of that time. And, there was a lot of action on the base pass for the Warriors. And Iowa City High, they managed to, again, not allow a single run to pass, even though they did allow, I believe, 6 hits in that one. So it was really a bend but not break. And, talking with Coach afterwards, it's kind of, it may not be pretty, it may not be flashy, but Iowa City High kind of wins in that fashion. They're comfortable being in a 2-0 game. They're comfortable with 1 run on the scoreboard, right? Because they know what they've got behind them here. And then as for Waukee, I'm with you 100%. This is a program I'm interested to see how they can continue to progress, because as a pitching staff, the thing is, and I know Baumler did a lot of this, but the pitching staff has to give a credit as a whole here. There was not a single chance that DCG had with bases loaded. There was not. I mean, if DCG did get anybody on, it was hardly with less than 2 outs. And, in the end, Dallas or Dowling Catholic, they what almost 500 with runners or runners on and with advancement opportunities. They made the most of it there, and so again, you put a lot of emphasis in how you can attack early and what you can do early on. It just was. If you don't let them onto the base pass, though, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme. And that's what we saw there. Again, I think it's a little bit of a different drastic because Baumler, he's spending time back and forth between here and TCU where he's going to play ball. But, he's a guy that I think is upper echelon above the rest. But I do think that when it comes to Iowa City High, they can look at this and go, okay, still state tournament quality pitching staff, but you don't have to. You're not always going to get 90s, upper 90s from Baumler, right? So how do you strategize now going down and going, okay, we're going to have to be comfortable with high 80s, mid 80s. How can we work with that? I know that they got that against Waukee, so yeah, I like the dynamic at play. I truly do here.
Yeah, and really, my final key point I wanted to bring up is you got 2 top seeds. City High, the better seed, and Kennedy, the better seed in their matchup, that are gonna be home teams pretty much. I mean, these guys are in their backyard, and you got Dowling and Johnston, multiple hours away, who no doubt are gonna bring their crew. I mean, they're gonna bring their fan base. But Kennedy and City High, major advantage here. I mean, we saw last night, Andrew, the crowd, even though it was North Polk, I think they really changed the game. I mean, those North Polk students were into it and they were loud, and Marion, just the crowd just really just struggled getting into it. So I know home field advantage isn't really thought of in baseball a ton, but man, you're gonna have Kennedy and City High with a major opportunity to get their crowd behind them and get in the game. And once you get that, it's hard for the other team to break momentum. So that's gonna be an interesting thing, but it should be fun. I mean, this place should be packed, and it should be a really fun night to settle who's gonna be playing for a title on Friday night in Class 4A.
And you have some really blue bloods in terms of making state and being there. Of course, you've got in terms of state tournament wins 23, 31, 13, 8. And from Iowa City High being at 8. Again, Johnston, they punched win number 30 in the state tournament the other day. And so you got Kennedy, they're at Fort 13 as well. So I mean, you got teams in Dowling they're at 23 state tournament wins. So you got two teams who have been there so much that their state tournament records now all the way up there, and two other teams that really haven't. So you got pedigree, you got history behind a lot of it. We'll see who ends up punching that ticket here, but yeah, I think that if we asked for anything, Cade, we asked for four of the best possible teams to be here. And although we may not have initially thought about it when we did our postseason brackets to start way back when, I think we're getting the four best. We're getting the four best teams that we didn't necessarily know we wanted, but we needed, and we even get the wanted matchups too. So let's buckle up here.
No doubt, it's gonna be a fun night.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, hey, unless there's anything else for the good of the cause, man, I think one, we want to thank the Log Cabin Greek Steakhouse in Galena, Illinois, for everything. They're great people and great food. Obviously, you got to check them out. So, really appreciate everybody else for watching, tuning in, and check out. There's a lot of content on Rockfin to check up, and of course on YouTube as well. So again, for Cade and myself, man, let's buckle up and get ready, and appreciate everybody.
Yep, we'll see you tonight.